have to offer. So um, I want to just kind of get a sense of who's in the room. So I know it's a short talk that I'm giving, but I just want to uh, get a sense of who are you, what's your degree in, and then if you can just give a quick snippet of the word sustainability, kind of what you think of when you think of sustainability. Um, so feel free to throw some things in the chat, um, and I can take a look at those as we kind of go. Um, so I know this is a very busy slide, and I usually try not to have too much information on the slide, but what I wanted to say and kind of start with is just saying thank you for all of the sustainability related work that you're all doing. I know I was able to speak with some of the members of your sustainability subcommittee. Oh, and thank you everyone for starting to post out, Stephen and Joan um, and so I think that was a huge step. And I've seen a lot of student government groups creating these kinds of sustainability related positions to really champion sustainability within their organizations. Um, and, I actually, I've been at GPSA meetings in the past. So Claire welcomed me last year, and I'm just really impressed by all the work you're doing around health and health of graduate students, and also mental health resources as well. Just kind of looking back at some of your past agendas, and also just acknowledging the um, anti-racism and DE&I work that you're all doing. Some of the bills that you passed, and then also your support for this climate action resolution. I'm really excited to see so much student passion, and I would say also concern, around climate issues. We all know it's a huge problem. So, um, and I won't go through this whole list, but I think hopefully what I can share with you today talks a little bit about um, the many ways that we can all sort of work to um, enhance sustainability and achieve sustainable development across the university. But I think you're already doing a ton of things that are on here. A little bit about me. I actually grew up on an island, and I'm a total fish. I love being in the water. You can see my family here, and I love the outdoors. I love biking. I'm a huge foodie, so I love food and cooking. So I was so excited to see that you did some cooking classes. That's really fun. I'd love to share recipes sometime. Um, so I think sustainability, in terms of my stake in sustainability and my experience dealing with, why am I focusing on this as a career? Well, I kind of noticed many changes growing up on this coastal environment. And, whether it was finding fishing gear on the beaches, or maybe seeing changes in the habitat when I'm diving. And also just kind of looking around and seeing, a lot of people, a lot of resources being used, kind of like a very extractive kind of environment, and just being really concerned about this. And I actually started my career as a counselor. So, I've been in a lot of different school systems, and I'm relatively new to higher ed, but those experiences also allowed me to kind of see firsthand some of these environmental challenges that we're all facing. You see like increase in asthma, and different health related disorders or obesity. So I think all of these combinations kind of came together for me to kind of make me really want to work with students and you all to really ensure a just and sustainable future for everybody. So, as I mentioned, we all know kind of some of the problems that exist, specifically with the burning of fossil fuels. And I know, you mentioned this in your legislation. It seems like a lot of you are very aware and knowledgeable of this. And this really is not something that is sustainable for all of us. And I'm just trying to look through Yeah, I love your answers. Taking action to build a better future. That's great. Preservation, saving the whales. I think that's really great. Um, yeah, so I was just looking through some of your responses here in the chat. Um, but these are the problems that we face. And so to kind of deal with this, oh, I don't know why that slide didn't pop up. um, so that's okay. So I think what a lot of you got at with thinking about sustainability, it really is our ability to sustain ourselves, right? Our environment, the economy, um, you know, protecting biodiversity, right? Our oceans, our forests, and really making sure that that is something that will sustain long into the future, right? Indefinitely. Um, so when we think about sustainability, we want to think about it in terms of not just the resources we use, but also, right, thinking about people, about animals, about the environment, right? Kind of how it all works together and sustains itself. So to do this and to accomplish this, we use these sustainable development goals. And I'm sure I've already seen you all use these and talk about these. And I know the sustainability subcommittee is well aware. Maybe if people can just give me either a thumbs up or, in the in your videos, just to kind of, have you seen these before? Are you familiar with them? Um,
I'll also
just kind
just
of sharing.
say that you have 2 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Julia. I really appreciate it. Um, yeah, so I definitely saw some hands there. That's great. So um, these sustainable development goals really help us to go beyond just thinking about sustainability as waste or recycling, right? And really thinking holistically. How do we reduce inequalities or poverty? How do we create clean and sustainable energy, right? This power purchase agreement is just one example of this, where 25% of Penn State's purchased electricity is now coming from a very large BP solar project. You can kind of see how integrating some of these sustainable development goals and how they can kind of interact and sort of support one another's. And so we're really trying to work towards all of these different areas. And this is definitely making changes. We've reduced our footprint quite a bit, but we still have a long way to go, particularly with things like building infrastructure, transportation, right? Some areas like that. And I won't spend too much time on this, but these were the areas that you all specified. And thank you to Julia for filling out the survey of kind of different areas that GPSA is working on. So I kind of encourage you to think about what are those different areas and what initiatives are you actually doing to accomplish those different targets and goals. And again, I won't go through a long list of different things that you can do. And Julia, I can definitely share this out with everyone. But I definitely encourage you to continue with this advocacy legislation, especially around what the different student organizations can do. Get involved with events. We have a number of events coming up in the month of April. It's going to be a very busy time, especially our keynote speaker, environmental justice champion, Dr. Robert Bullard is coming on Thursday. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. And I'm really excited to announce, I won't go through the whole list again. I can give you some time to look through it, but there will be sustainability officer positions available. So I know you're all going through your elections right now. And I know you already have the subcommittee, so you are already ahead of the game in many ways, but you can actually elect and post that position on Org Central. And then there will be, education, different materials, the kind of how do you embed this within your organization, meeting monthly with myself as well. So that is going to be kind of an exciting new development. And also, I encourage you to hold the university accountable. There's actually a report, a sustainability report that we have to complete through the Sustainability Institute every 3 years. And so completing that, you can see how we compare to other universities and how we're doing in different areas. So check out, the co-curricular learning space in education and research. I think you all have tremendous potential as graduate students, especially in the area of research, especially at such a great research institution like Penn State, to really push what we understand and know about sustainability, what we can do around it. Um, and also how we can partner with people, right? So how can we get companies or outside entities to gain an interest in that, and right, having that capital can really make a big difference. So I won't go through all of these. I know I'm short on time. These are all the different events, and I think Julia, you shared
Wanna-
these out, I think.
Yes, if you want to just wrap up some final thoughts, it's a bit over the 10 minutes. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, so these are upcoming events. Please, I encourage you to check them out. There's a whole range of things coming up this month. Um, and I do have my email there if you want to ask any questions. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you all welcoming me here. And yeah, I'm excited to continue the conversation. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Perry. Are there any questions? Nico?
Hi, thanks for the presentation. There's a lot of useful material there. I think you mentioned that you were sharing slides already, but I was wondering um, if there is a way to do um, a broader orientation module on sustainable practices, because I know that my department has been going back and forth over, what could we be doing better as a department. But if every single department is doing that separately, then you have dozens of people doing almost identical work. I mean, we don't have centrifuges to deal with, but for the most part, the actions that everyone could control are mostly the same. And it seems to be more a function of how old the building is than whether it would make sense to add a lot of these features.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really great question of, right, if we're reaching out individually to different groups and different people, that can take a really long time, and we don't really have a lot of time, right? You hear about, right, all these changes that are going on. So one thing that the Sustainability Institute is really pushing forward is a literacy assessment to kind of get a baseline of how, what do students actually know about sustainability? What are the kinds of things that all students should know and graduate, having completed a degree from Penn State? Um, Also, things like an S designation, right? So that would be certain sustainability related coursework, right? So there's a large number of courses, but if that is sort of a core, area or course, right? And then also in the co-curricular space, right? I think there's a tremendous amount of potential for um, building this network, right? Where students can actually also be educating one another. So I know UPUA and the Sustainability Student Advisory Council, who advocates to administration, they actually are exploring this idea of archiving to kind of get a sense of, and they're talking about, I need to learn a little bit more about it, but this would be something like through either, university libraries, something like that, where you could go and sign in and search for, what are people doing around zero waste, or what are people doing around environmental justice work at the university, and be able to get a sense of who are those students, what do they know, who are they in contact with, what's the history of things that have been tried in the past. So those are some ways to, I think, kind of help build more of these synergies, make sure students are educated. But you're right, there's a long way to go. Also exploring, maybe this is for new employees, or right, new staff members, to get, some sort of training. So that's definitely something that's been explored. It's a little bit trickier with the student organizations, where I think you can definitely require things, right, that the student organizations do. But it's a lot already, right, with mandatory officer training, with all of the things that student orgs are being asked to do. So you have to kind of find, what are the things that really motivate you, and that align with your values. And I think if we can target the education towards that, right, that will really increase engagement as well. So I think those are some thoughts and some ideas. Probably a longer answer than you wanted.
Any other questions for Perry? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much for taking the time to be here tonight. We appreciate it, and have a good rest of your evening. And
Thank you so much, Julia. And yeah, thank you so much to, everybody here, just for including me. And yeah, please keep up the good work. And again, reach out if you want to set up a meeting. I know this was really brief, so happy to talk further.
thank you.
Great.
And
Thank you so
now
much.
I'll turn it over to Damon Sims, the Vice President of Student Affairs.
Thank you very much, Julia. It's good to see you. It's good to be with all of you. And it's tough to follow Perry, because I'm not sure there are many issues more important than sustainability. So it's nice to see that you're as engaged in that issue as you are. And I was happy to spend a little time hearing from Perry too. I think he's doing some very important work. Julia was nice enough just to invite me. By the way, Julia, you ought to tell me how much time I've got so I don't go over.
Yes, 10 minutes.
10 minutes. All right, I can do that. So Julia was nice enough to invite me and not tell me what to talk about. So I've decided what I want to talk about, and we'll see if there are things that interest you. I really have one general topic and then one specific topic, and I think I can get to each of them completely pretty quickly. But I do want to take this opportunity, since I don't get to talk to all of you very often, just to say how much I appreciate GPSA and appreciate all the work that each of you is contributing to this organization. My own origin in the work that I do now actually was found in my involvement with student government at a different Big Ten school ages ago. So I know something about the importance of student government. I believe in it tremendously, and I'm always so pleased and really kind of proud of the way student governments at Penn State function, and GPSA is extraordinary in so many respects. So I just want to say thank you to people who are already very busy in various ways in your lives, for committing additional time and thought and energy for the good of other students, and really for the good of the institution. Your advocacy and leadership are very, very important. And I want to quickly just say thank you to Alex and Julia. I of course, enjoy interactions with them more often than with the rest of you. And we have had many conversations through the year. They represent your organization extremely well. They're very consistent in their approach to a broad range of topics, and they have been impactful, just as GPSA has been impactful this year. So as I say, I could talk about any number of issues, but I want to talk about this one general theme that I'm hearing as I talk to other student leaders, student government leaders, leaders in other advocacy organizations in the university. And it may or may not hold true for GPSA. I suspect it probably holds true for at least some of you, because this has been a peculiar year. It's just been a very, very strange year. And a lot of your peers across the institution, I think they're frustrated with the year. I think they're frustrated because they entered into their leadership roles with an expectation that they might be able to advance some important initiatives a little further than they have. I think that because of the nature of the interactions we're all having, they don't always seem to see the impact they're having on the institution or on the student experience or whatever it is that is important to them. And so I just find myself in these conversations repeatedly as we inch toward the end of a school year with students who are disappointed by the experience they had in leadership roles and are questioning, I think, what the relationship is between their organizations, their leadership functions, and the rest of the institution. And so I just want to tell you as strongly and clearly as I can that these organizations, your organization, student government, GPSA, they are critically important actually to the university and its success. We are a community. If we're going to succeed, we have to function as a community where faculty, staff, and students are the primary constituents. We have other constituencies, of course, alumni, local residents, parents, donors, all those entities are very important, but no constituencies matter the way faculty, staff, and students do. And in the context of a community that's built around shared governance, the role of student leaders, and most importantly, I think student governments, is just critical to the success of the organization. So your voice has always been important. It has been important this year as a representation of this key constituency of graduate and professional students in our community. I am always pleased that we have various channels in which your voice can be heard. GPSA's actions through resolutions and media attention that you may get for those resolutions matters. Julia and Alex and others have regular interaction with senior administrative leaders of the university, but I'd like to think that other colleagues across the institution are accessible to you when they should be, when you need them, and when you want to convey your views about issues. The regular interaction that your representation through Alex and Julia have with the Board of Trustees matters a great deal. Not every student organization has that kind of connection to the board. Your individual natural connections to faculty help interweave relationships that strengthen the community, I think. And you have built-in connections to the other student governments. And when you can find common purposes with them, you're going to advance your purposes more readily. So we have all those things built in that I think you do take advantage of, but I want to encourage you to continue to be shrewd about how you utilize those channels and make them most effective for your purposes. But I also think we can together, and this is where I think I can be helpful, and I don't think I've done this as well as I should, and I'm really asking for your help in allowing me to do this better with you. But I think I can help amplify your voice further. It's kind of interesting that Perry was talking about the Student Sustainability Advisory Council, because that's one of the groups I've had the same conversation with. When you pass resolutions or when the SSAC issues recommendations, I think that we need to sort of institutionalize a way for the senior leadership of the institution to respond to what you're saying. I think sometimes we respond orally, but there's something ephemeral about that. I think that perhaps some resolutions are more important than others and command this kind of response more likely than others. But certainly this year, you've had resolutions built around your concern about racial issues. Sustainability is an important one. All the COVID stuff and the regulations and rules and approaches we were pursuing, you had some things to say about that. I think we institutionally need to respond to you. And so I just say that as an invitation to more conversations between us about how we could, in a more formal way, perhaps, institutionalize a practice of responding to you, so you know that you are heard and you have some sense of where we have commonality, where we disagree, and why. What more could be done, perhaps, to advance these purposes that you're trying to communicate to us. So I really am quite serious about that, and I hope that we can continue a dialogue in another context about that, because I think that could add value to your experience and to GPSA's influence within the community which I already think is tremendous and important, but I think it can be improved. And I think that that's a function that I should serve in helping that occur. So if you want to take me up on that, we'll talk about that further. Then the specific topic I want to reference that I think is really important and needs your voice, very importantly, needs your voice. That is the search for the next president of this university. None of us are going to feel, and this includes vice president of the university, none of us will feel that we have the kind of influence over that process we would like, or the level of involvement we would like to have. You may know that Nico, I believe, is a graduate and professional student who is serving on a group called Next Gen Penn State. So we have a member of your organization in that context. But I think GPSA more broadly could issue some statements to this search process, through the search firm, through the board leadership, about what you think the university needs to be searching for. What kind of person, with what kinds of skill sets, what kind of experience, where are the opportunities that this institution needs to vigorously pursue? Where are the threats? And that kind of insight from you can inform the search in important ways. Things that you think ought to be off the table, perhaps, ought to be included in comments that you offer. But importantly, constructive suggestions to this search process from the perspective of graduate and professional students about what the senior-most administrative leader of this institution should bring to the institution as an individual person, I think can be very, very important. And I hope you take the time individually, but importantly, collectively, to think about how best to structure whatever comments you want to provide in that context, because I think you might be surprised. What you say can change outcomes, and you might change minds among those on the board who in the end are making the decision for all of us. So I'd hate for you to let that opportunity drift by without vigorously pursuing it, and I strongly encourage you to do so. So I think that's inside my 10 minutes, Julia, or close to it, but I'm happy to respond to any questions. I just want to say again, thank you to all of GPSA for the extremely important work you've done this year. It's been really valuable to our community, and it's been valuable and impactful to me, and I just am deeply grateful for it.
Great, thank you so much, Damon. That's really helpful. Are there any questions for Damon? Claire?
Yeah, hi Damon, it's good to see you. I have a sort of general question. I'm just wondering, what is if you had to pick one or two things about transitioning back to in-person classes, what are those things that you think grad and professional students specifically should be either paying attention to or you need feedback on? Yeah.
Well, I think that there's just been tremendous anxiety through this whole experience, and we're not done with the pandemic. So we're all very hopeful now with vaccines and the rollout of vaccines. But at the same time, we see case numbers rising. We see variants emerging. So I think that we all have to do what we can to try to achieve that confidence that returning to in-person experience requires before we can actually do it. People need to be as comfortable as they can be, and where you, as graduate and professional students, have some insights about what would make your peers feel more comfortable about returning to those experiences, either in your own classroom experiences, but importantly, perhaps in teaching roles and other roles interacting with undergraduate students in particular. I think that insight would be critically important, because we need to focus on those things that would generate that kind of confidence and lessen the anxiety that we all feel. I don't think anything could be more important than that. And it's going to be challenging, but I remain hopeful that over the next few months, we can all get there together. Thanks for that question, Claire.
Nico?
It's nice to put a voice and a face to a name.
I know.
Because, well, not that I'm sure I'll do well with the face, but the voice definitely helps for me. And I wanted to mention, because you brought it up, that anyone who has sort of ideas of specific framings of GPSA values, I would love to discuss that. I'll add something on the Slack to make sure that there's somewhere that everyone can get in touch and have that conversation and keep it all in one place. And I think the GPSA values are already aligned with most of what I would have to say. So it's really a question of how that would be implemented in this particular context. So thanks for the invitation. And if other people want to be more involved in that process, I don't think the committee is full yet. I could be wrong. That's a question. What should people, whether on this assembly or otherwise, involved students who want to become more directly involved in this do to reach out?
Well, candidly, the Board of Trustees is responsible for all this. So those of us in administration and management are not. I am glad that they invited you to participate and be a representative for graduate professional students. And I'm very glad that you accepted that role. My understanding is that they have a full contingent now for that next gen group. I think there may be 40 or 45 members, and I think that's what they want for that group. But it's a group that's supposed to do some outreach, and I'm pleased to hear you inviting your colleagues here to share with you insights that you can communicate. But I also think you can gain some insights from this process to share with them about how GPSA collectively could be most impactful in perhaps putting together in writing a statement consistent with what I was saying earlier about what this organization thinks we should be looking for in the next president of the university. So I think it's sort of iterative. I think that they can provide you insights that can be useful in your role, but you can provide them insights about how best to affect the outcome.
Star?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for recognizing the work that's done in GPSA and the voices of graduate students and how important they are. Penn State has a lot of constituents, both on campus, off campus, and in the community. And oftentimes the graduate students feel a little bit overlooked and like they're just here. So I appreciate you recognizing that graduate students are the next set of professionals and faculty, and it is important to hear their voice, and their role in this ecosystem is vital. So thanks for that recognition. Have a great day.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for all you're doing.
Any final questions for Damon?